Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey. Thanks for joining me again this week. I am here again with a great guest. I am here today with Dr. Tim Ryan. Tim Ryan is with Ryan Family Chiropractic. We are today going to talk about all things chiropractic and having to do with the spine. I met Dr. Tim because I had a crisis with my neck, and he has been my savior. So I asked him to come on the radio show. I am a little biased today. I know that you're not supposed to be when you're a radio show host, but I'm just going to put it out there right now. I'm biased because he's worked miracles on my neck. Anyway, Dr. Tim, welcome. Thanks for joining me today.
Good morning.
So let's talk a little bit about your background and how you got involved in spine health and chiropractic.
Well, for a long time, I've always wanted to be a doctor, but never knew what kind of doctor I wanted to be. And that went all the way through high school and into college, and really wasn't sure where I was going. And somewhere along the way, I had a couple injuries and incidences that brought me into chiropractors very kind of unknowingly. Starting in high school, I had a neck injury and was out for a while, couldn't move, did all the typical medical treatments with no improvement. And finally, a friend of mine's dad was a chiropractor. And he said, you know what, you need to see him after practice. There's no reason you should be out for this long. And so his dad looked at me and was like, yeah, we can help you. And so we went kind of through the process, and with a single adjustment, he was able to get me back to the point where I could move and do all things normal again. And I said, wow, this is really amazing. What did he know? Well, that was kind of the end of it. I was in high school. I didn't think anymore. And another year went by, another injury happened. And I went, you know what? I need to find one of these chiropractor people. I don't know what they do, but that's got to be the right way to go. And so I went and found another chiropractor, and this person helped me through a low back injury, also from wrestling, which is how I kind of got through this.
Yeah, I hate that sport. Every time I see that sport, I think they're going to break his neck. And clearly they do.
Sometimes it feels that way. Absolutely.
Or sprain the neck.
So it got me into that process, and so I started seeing the chiropractor regularly, dealing with the low back issue that I had. It wasn't a one and done fix like I wanted the first one to be, and like the first one was. So I kind of started to learn you got to do these other things to keep yourself going well, and went off to college. Happened to have another chiropractor who worked with our wrestling team, and he was a person that really started to explain.
He never left wrestling.
I know. I didn't learn. But this third chiropractor is one who finally explained all the other benefits other than just the aches and pains that I was noticing, and that's when I started to go, this is pretty neat. And that's when I kind of shifted for, you know what, maybe this is where I need to be. This is the kind of doctor I want to be, to help people get better, not just get over, whatever they're dealing with at any given moment.
That's so cool. I didn't know that story. Isn't it amazing? This is a whole nother show, but isn't it amazing how one interaction that you don't really understand is impactful in your life becomes the driving force for what you end up doing in the future? I've heard that so many times. Something happened in childhood. Somebody had one conversation. Somebody made you feel worthy in when you were 14 about some character trait that you had, and you just ran with that for the rest of your life because you believed it. It's just amazing to me. Nothing happens by chance.
Absolutely. We say it all the time, everything you do, we want it to try to focus on moving in a good direction. And so whether we talk about, when you get adjusted, we talk about more than just your neck.
Oh my gosh, we have so much to talk about today. I didn't even know you had a neck injury, so you lived my pain.
Yeah, I know all too well what you were going through. Oh my gosh.
Okay, so folks, I'm going to give you a little story. I feel like every week it's always about Jeannie. But you're going to have to bear with me because it's going to be about me again today. I was on my birthday, August 14th, out, and I went to Nashville. And there were little stools, like Dr. Tim's family sitting on here in the radio station. And people were walking by me constantly because I was on the outside. So I was sitting precariously already all night long, and kind of sideways, and I noticed my neck hurt, and I was straining it for hours. And I went to bed that night in a hotel, not my bed, not my pillows, right next to the air. And I woke up the next morning, and I could barely move my neck. And I mean misery. I couldn't move. I couldn't function. My entire body was focused on not hurting so much that I couldn't bear it. And here we are a couple months later, and I'm just feeling better. And he says, yeah, with people like you who do so well so fast. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, that wasn't that fast. I was impatient. I remember going to your office after 4 weeks and almost in tears. Hey, I need to be better.
Right. Yeah.
So let's talk about that. What happens with the spine and why it can take such a long time. What happens in an instant isn't going to be fixed in an instant.
Well, and that's just it. All too often we have an instance. You're out for the evening, you sit funny, and then you wake up the next morning and it's killing you. And the assumption is it was just that hour or two when you were sitting on that stool funny. And we don't think about maybe the years of history and other things that have happened and have built up, but never got to that point of actually causing a pain or causing some problem that you were very aware of because it interrupted your life. And suddenly you have this one moment that you can link, I did this and now I can't move. And you go, that had to be it. Well, if it's that quick, it should go away that quick. And if that were the true case, they usually do. If something happens new, you start to take care of it right away. It does go away very, very quickly.
And I'm not the most patient person. And so a couple weeks of this and I was like, okay, enough already. You have to, and your poor massage therapist, Tammy. I mean, this girl, by the way, I have to do a shout out for Tammy while we're here.
Absolutely.
Because there are massage therapists and then there are massage therapists.
Yep.
And Tammy is, I would explain her as a true expert in her field. I'm not just getting a massage. She knows the inner workings of every single muscle and how it attaches to each other and where it affects the rest of your body. And she at one point said to me, do you mind if I do, I don't even know what she called it. And she touched my shin and it helped my neck. I don't get it, but she's amazing. So we're going to talk chiropractic, but as I learned, it goes hand in hand. I couldn't get better without having both of those done in those early weeks.
Absolutely. And we talked about when you first came in, when people come in, it's easy to say chiropractic and you go, what does a chiropractor do? And if you ask the average person, they'll tell you, oh, they work on your neck and your back. But as we got to talking about when you first came in, there's so much more than that. And the only reason we bother to touch your back is because that's where your spinal cord runs. And so that's going from your brain down your spine, and that's what's connecting everything. So if you disrupt that, yes, you can have a back pain that doesn't go away, but where else does that nerve go? What else does it do? And what connects there? And that's kind of the bigger picture and why we can see it connect to, so many other things.
So we jumped a little bit ahead. I'm sorry about that. I was so intent on telling my story because it was very traumatic. But let's back up for a minute and just talk about the spine and how it affects all of your body and your person. And then I want to talk about chiropractic as it relates to traditional medicine too, because I have a lot to say about that as well.
Absolutely. So, as you go down, most people are aware your brain runs your whole body. It does that through your nervous system. It's the communication factor. If your brain doesn't know what's happening in your body, it can't tell it what to do to make it better or to work at its most optimum function. And that's what we're trying to do, is keep that communication clear. A lot like we're on the radio trying to explain this idea that you have kind of come across and gone like, wow, why didn't I already know this? It's because no one had communicated that in a way that made sense for you. Sometimes it takes a physical action. Sometimes it just takes the right words to connect to you. Well, your brain and body are doing the same thing. If your brain doesn't see it and doesn't hear it right, it doesn't know it's supposed to react. And vice versa. If it hears it and it sends out the right signal, but that signal never gets back to your body clearly, your body, say a leg or a neck, might know how to have the right, pieces and parts to heal whatever that injury is, but is never being told to do it. So it just kind of sticks with the same pattern it's doing of trying to protect and guard and these other things that aren't healing. They're just, let's not make it worse. And so that's what we're trying to restore, is that communication, so that your body sees what's going on and then tells it, okay, this is what you need to do to fix, this neck problem, to fix this arm problem, to fix whatever, the issue is throughout the rest of the body.
He's so educational. Every single time I go into the office, he gives me an education on whatever it is that I complained about that day. It's awesome. Anyway, so when I first went in, we talked about, I had no idea. My head was forward. I wasn't standing up straight. Long, prolonged, bad posture had gotten the best of me, which is why I was so acute.
Exactly, which is why that one evening of sitting funny was able to cause such a big problem. There was already something under the surface. And sitting there for an hour may not have been a problem by itself, but add that on top of the years of posture and other changes, and here you have that perfect
And
storm.
the reason I mention that is so important, folks, because in the age of technology and computers, there's so much I know now that I didn't know before. I work on a laptop, so I'm always hunched over working on the laptop. And now, just since this situation, I have raised my screen up so I'm looking straight ahead and not down. I have gotten a back pillow and a new chair, because some of those executive chairs are terrible for your posture, and a remote keypad and mouse so that I can keep my shoulders back. I've also gone to a stand-up desk, and I rotate between standing and sitting all day long. I actually like the stand-up desk better. It forces good posture. So I know if you're listening to this show and you're working on a laptop, as many of us are, or even a computer screen that's not raised high enough, it's affecting your posture. Your shoulders are pulling forward. Your head is pulling forward, and you are going to be susceptible to what I went through. And if I can just prevent that in anybody, I feel good today.
Absolutely. I mean, you hit on a huge thing that's, currently around as we see technology, whether it be smartphones or computers. One of the things that we talk about is a neck that's very straight, doesn't have its normal curve. So the posture stuff you were talking about, we used to call it military neck. You only saw it in people who had been in military service because of that very forced posture. It was straight over their shoulders, but there was no curve. It was very straight. Now we see it in young children because they're so often at a laptop or a handheld device and their head is leaned way forward. So it's reversing that curve and making it straight. And so then when they stand up straight, they've got this straight neck that might go back over their shoulders, but you don't have a curve. And we don't think about it, but here's a growing body that's trying to create this curve, and it can't because it's constantly being pulled into these positions because of how they use their technology.
So that worries me because that's our next generation.
Absolutely.
Dr. Tim's here with his kids. I want to make them feel good and get them on the show here for just a second. Okay, so this is Kylie and Connor, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so your dad's a chiropractor. And we're
Yes.
talking about kids at the computers all the time. Is that you? Are you at the computer all the time?
Not much of the time. I prefer nature.
Okay. Well, then you're a bad test example. Plus, your dad gives you adjustments, right?
Yes.
So you have good spine health, right? Okay. Well, let me ask you, because you're a little girl. Are you on the phone a lot?
Not the phone, but the TV.
The TV, okay. And so you're not sitting with good posture all the time. Because I was going to tell on her, she's kind of slouched back in her chair right now. Right, Kylie?
Yeah.
Okay, so does your dad help you and adjust your neck too?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, not all the kids are lucky to have a father who's a chiropractor, but I just wanted to get their opinions here. Most kids, and I will say mine, I wasn't as good at raising kids who loved nature and didn't misbehave at the computer and the telephone too much. So I'm always after my son now. Sit, put your shoulders back. Evan, you're slouching. You need a better posture. You don't want to go through what I'm going through. But what you said, Dr. Tim, it worries me because I promise you that's what the kids are doing these days. I see them. They come to my house. I think we're having social night and they're all on their phones.
And they're
or
all
playing
texting each other from
Xbox.
across the room. Yeah.
Right. They're texting each other. Yeah. Who's that? Oh, tell her I said. And they're doing it via text. So this worries me because I think this could be a future epidemic here.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot to that, and we see it, and it's one of the biggest things in our office. We do a lot with pediatrics, kids, and that is a big part that I talk to them about. Like, we don't think about like, okay, you need to lie down this right way because you're a little kid. We'll worry about how you sleep in another way, or we'll deal with posture later. And I think our grandparents, at least for my generation, our grandparents were much better about, sit up straight, don't slouch, don't do these things. We've gotten a lot more lax because we're on electronics. So when our kids are on electronics doing the same things we are, we kind of forget like, oh wait, I'm supposed to be teaching you to do this well, in addition to everything else, we're trying to show you what to do. And so it is a big difference. And the earlier you can start getting rid of those problems, then, a lot like we talked about with your situation, you don't have these years of things building when they have that one moment that turns into a problem. And then they go, I don't know why it won't get better for months.
Yeah. And it wasn't always accepted, the whole chiropractic term. And so, it took me a minute. But I'll tell you what, I did a show recently and I talked about this. You can do all things, no matter what's falling apart around you, as long as you have your health. Because no matter what happens, you always have a future that you can come back and fix and rebuild or whatever. if your health goes, and in those early days, I wasn't sure I was ever going to feel better again because it was so awful, then everything stops. Nothing, I could not focus on anything except feeling okay enough to get through the day.
Right. And at that point, there's nothing more demoralizing than not being able to do the things that you love or that give you that sense of relief or release, whatever your fun item is. If you're stuck sitting at home just suffering because you're afraid to move or whatever the case is, you're not even really able to live at that point. And then we get the frustration and you get the, all the other things that go with that stress as well.
So if it happens to you, you're going to know real quick, I need to take care of my spine. So I'm trying to tell you my story because if you know that you're not practicing good posture for a long period of time and you're getting sore and you just don't feel like, you're moving your shoulders and your neck, probably you need to go see the chiropractor.
Absolutely. There's signs that things are already building, and I think we miss that things like that are a great sign of things that are good for you are things that you need to keep up on. We think about eating well. You can't eat well just once a week and expect it to do something good.
Right.
Exercise, you need to keep up, using and moving your body. Posture is another one of those things. And, if you've gotten to a point where your body doesn't move because it's stuck in a position or these other things, that's where chiropractic can really help with something just as simple as posture. If we can get the body moving again, the posture becomes easier. If the body's communicating and it runs the muscles and the joints better, then that stuff becomes easier to do.
And that's what happens. It locks up.
Absolutely. Trying to avoid a further injury. Your body's trying to protect whatever's going on. And so as a short-term fix, it's a brilliant adaptation for your body to go, you know what? We're sitting all crooked on the edge of this chair. Let me tighten these muscles that hold me here so I don't have to work overtime to do these other things. Problem is our body never gets to that point where it goes, okay, I'm no longer sitting on the chair. Turn that all off, because the irritation is already there from the history of things you had. And, so your body keeps with that tightness. And then you go about your daily life now in this new weird, tight edge of the chair kind of position. And you go, I don't know why this seems to be getting worse and worse and worse, or suddenly tight.
And it's not just muscular now. Like, you lock up and it ain't easy to get that unlocked. I got to tell you, that's great grammar there, but I'm trying to make a point. When you get to that phase where you're locked up, it's a lot of work to release all of those muscles and everything else that's locking up to protect that
Absolutely.
spine.
You start with those tight muscles, and those muscles are pulling on bones. That's how our body moves, and those bones all connect by joints. And that's where we start to feel that weird motion, or it being stuck or fixated, whatever word you want to use there. And like you say, if it's more than just the tight muscle, you've got to work through these layers of things. If the joints are stuck, but the muscles are still tight, you got to get through all the muscle before you can even get to the joint to unlock it and then get this new motion. So sometimes there are layers and layers of things you've got to work through, whether it's a posture position or other things.
And that's where the whole chiropractic and massage therapies go hand in hand, right?
Absolutely.
'Cause you can't get to one without the other.
They're connected. It creates a loop. You've got the nervous system is running everything. You've got the bones and spine are there trying to protect and create the structure and the motion. And then you've got the muscles, which is what's moving the bones around. So you have this connection back and forth. If the muscles are tight, the bones don't move right. They don't protect the nerves, and nerves are irritated. Now they don't tell the muscles how to work right. And you create this feedback loop, and you've got to find a way to work through those. So with the chiropractic, we're able to get things moving, take pressure off the nerves. The massage can help with that muscle to unlock that. And now you've kind of broken the cycle at multiple points. And when we let your body get back to normal, it goes, oh, okay, well, now let's figure out something new given our new scenario of stretched muscles and a better position and a better posture. And I'm not doing this sitting on the chair funny or bad posture at the moment. And now we're able to start a new cycle of things building in the right direction.
And another thing I found is you get adjusted, but it doesn't hold. Right?
Absolutely.
For a while. And then as you get better and those muscles are relaxed, I don't really know all the particulars, but then it holds a little longer and a little longer and a little longer. And that's your path to
Our
healing.
bodies are very good at trying to be efficient, and it's efficient by creating patterns, things we do over and over. It tries to simplify those. And so, like you say, when your body's been out of position for so long, the pattern is, you know what, we're just going to hold tight into this position because it seems to keep the pressure off, and that's what we're used to. So the body creates that as a starting point. And then we adjust it, and the body goes, wait a minute, why did you change that this one time? Like, that's not normal. Let's go back to normal. So it goes back to your tight position.
keeps
And so we
resisting
kind
you.
of do this
Okay.
back and forth where we say, no, this is the new position where you need to be. This is good. And your body goes, well, but I'm not used to it. So it goes back. And so we play this game. And eventually, as your body becomes more and more used to this new position being a good thing with no negative side effects, it goes, okay, well, maybe we'll make this change. And we gradually move towards that becoming your new set point. And once we get to that point, that's where people start to go, wow, this is amazing. Like, I stay good between my adjustments.
That's
I feel great. I'm getting all these wonderful benefits. And that's the biggest part to it.
And so I do want to talk. There's so much more. Every time I go, I get a flyer. You're so into the education of spine.
Absolutely.
I love it. And there are some terms I want to talk. You were talking about subluxation.
Yes.
Should we back up and talk about the spine a little more? You
Yeah,
direct
absolutely.
me here.
I mean, subluxation is the key word. What does a chiropractor fix? We fix subluxation. Some people have heard subluxation from a medical world. It has a medical definition. Chiropractors have a definition that goes somewhat along with that, but kind of a little bit more. And so when chiropractors talk about the subluxation, it's that cycle we were talking about. The bone's out of place. It affects how the nerve works, and that nerve now affects how your body's working. That combination of effects is a subluxation. So
And that's what happened. I locked up, which was muscular,
Yep.
because my spine was out of whack, which is bone.
the bone. Yep.
And my arm hurt all
Mm-hmm.
the way down to almost my wrist, which was because, and that was the worst part.
So
the
you
nerve
have the pain with the nerve, but then the nerve is also what tells the muscles to stay in that locked up. So that nerve side had two aspects. One was a pain aspect, one was a function aspect for you. So both of those are connected to the nerve side of that loop and cycle.
Yeah, we really need to focus more on our spine health. And I want to talk more about how spine health ties to the rest of your body. We just spent a few minutes now talking about how the spine is tied to the nerves, is tied to the muscles. Well, that's your body.
Right.
And so it can affect so many other things. We have so much more to talk about, but we have to take a quick break. Again, I'm here with Dr. Tim Ryan from Ryan Family Chiropractic.
Okay.
He is located, is it Kennesaw? Or
It's Ackworth.
Is it Ackworth?
Yep.
In Ackworth on Cobb Parkway, over by that Kroger.
Yep, on Ackworth Due Weston 41.
Ackworth through Weston 41. And what's the website before we take a quick break?
RyanFamilyChiropractic.com.
Well, that's easy. So stay with me. We're going to come back and we're going to talk a lot more about the C's and the T's and the L's. Did I get that right?
Absolutely, you got it.
Because with mine, it was in the neck. It was C5, 6, and 7. And then as you get to the lower back, it's the lumbar, the L's,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
So we're going to talk more about that and how it affects the rest of your body. Very, very important stuff. So please stay with me. I'll be right back. Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey. Thanks for staying with us this week. I'm still here with Dr. Tim Ryan. Again, he's from Ryan Family Chiropractic. I don't know why I can't get that. And he's located at 3330 Cobb Parkway Northwest in Suite 332, Ackworth, Georgia. He's right there in the Kroger Plaza on 41.
Yes.
At the Ackworth,
Ackworth Due Weston 41.
where that McDonald's is, right?
Yep, there's McDonald's on the corner. That's unfortunately,
We all
that's
know
what
the
a lot
fast
of
food
people know the
restaurant.
corner. Absolutely.
And at the beginning of the show, we talked a lot about me. I'm sorry about that. We should have really started with the spine. But now that we got that over with, we can talk about the serious issue of the spine and how that relates to the rest of your body. And honestly, so many ailments that could be caused because you don't have good spine health.
Absolutely. Where your body is controlling itself. If it's in your body, it's being run by your nervous system. So anything that affects your nervous system potentially affects how your body works. And that's our goal, is to keep that nervous system working without any interference so that it can see those parts and run those parts to the best of their ability.
And there's other things too, like they say it's just minimal reading and research on my part, so you can say yay or no, that it can be linked to like ADHD and arthritis can be helped
Absolutely. I mean, the list of common things, I mean, just to hit highlights that, everybody will find something on the list. You can go from mood and behavioral things, whether it's ADHD, depression type stuff, headaches, sinus, breathing issues.
Yeah, that's a big one. And vision, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. You get some types of blurred vision and other things. Like I say, all on that nerve control side of things. We see stomach process, acid reflux, and indigestion type things. You get all your typical nerve stuff down the arms and hands and legs and numbness and tingling. Carpal tunnel is a huge one people don't think about. Frozen shoulders.
I've had carpal tunnel, so that was probably a precursor to tell me something's going on with your spine.
It's possible, yeah. It's not to say that chiropractic is the end all be all fix everything magic bullet, because there are times when there's other things going on, but there's a lot of these things that do come back to how is the nerve running that area, what's it doing with the muscles and the joints, and if we don't start looking kind of from where that communication comes from, sometimes we miss and we kind of chase where we feel it, and we kind of don't see that, oh, maybe this is coming from a neck injury you had before and it leads to carpal tunnel down the road, versus maybe it really was a carpal tunnel and this neck thing just happened to be coincidence.
And let's stay on that, because I have a thyroid issue, and with thyroid some of the side effects are tingling in your extremities, and sometimes I get that tingling sensation in my hands. I wrote it off as, oh, that's my thyroid, I gotta go get my medicine dose checked. But that could have been related to a spine issue, because clearly I had that going on for a long time.
And certainly one of the many things that's running your thyroid, along with the other hormonal controls and chemical signals, is a nervous system side of things. And so there is a connection that can be there for some people, whether it be the thyroid or whether it be the other symptoms that go with it, coming from the same areas of the nervous system. Yeah, you can see connections and correlations, those, concurrently or in caused by the same thing.
So let's talk about the spine. And I know it's a radio show, not a television show, but we're going to try to help people visualize as much as possible. Because what scared me when I had the x-ray is seeing that my neck curved forward, and it's supposed to curve backwards.
If you were to look somebody from front to back, it should be perfectly straight up and down.
Okay.
If you looked at them from a side profile view, your neck would have a curve that goes forward in the middle, so it kind of curves backwards. Your upper back, where your shoulders are, is going to curve backwards by your shoulder blades, and then your low back curves back forwards again, so you kind of have that curved indent into your low back. So you have those three main curves that go throughout your back, and they are a huge part of posture and the position that's normal for your spine to take stress off joints and nerves and those sorts of things.
And the ones in the neck, can we go down the
Absolutely.
spine?
So in your neck, you've got 7 bones, like most mammals, not all, but most, including giraffes. Everybody likes that one. Have 7 bones in their neck. They're all called the cervical spine. Your middle back, that's attached to all the ribs, you've got 12 bones through there, and those are called the thoracic spine. And then the low back is called the lumbar spine, and you've got 5 bones in your low back, assuming you have all the typical standard numbers. Some people have different variations for how their body was formed and grew, but those are the typical numbers.
And I think the most prevalent one, the one that we most of the time hear about, I'm assuming here, is the lumbar.
You hear a lot of people who will associate, especially with chiropractic, people think low back pain, that L5 you hear people talk about a lot, the common with the sciatica and the problems into the low back and into the legs. That's the lowest of those lumbar, low back vertebra and nerves.
And that can be debilitating.
Absolutely. Anything that comes to a nerve pain, can really put you at a point where it's so uncomfortable that it puts you out. I mean, from your issue, even just from a neck, the pain that was there almost completely incapacitates the use of your arm, because it just irritates everything every time you move. So whether that's a neck, a mid-back, or a low back, nerve pain can be quite severe to the point where you don't feel like or can't do anything else without the pain being so severe that it stops you.
The best way I can describe it is every ounce of your energy is now focused on fighting pain. I couldn't think. I would sit at work and tell my assistant, I can't think right now. You're just going to have to take care of that one right now, because I'm just fighting pain. I'm here, but not really.
The pain signals that are getting sent back to your brain just start to override things, and your body's more concerned with why am I in pain and how do I stop this than, how do I, run a radio show, or how do I, manage people, or how do I...
So sciatica, if somebody is suffering from sciatica, there's an awful lot a chiropractor can do.
There's a lot of connections to where chiropractic fits in that. Sciatica is one of those things. There's lots of ways that can happen. It can start with where those nerves, right where they leave the spine, so the bones of the low back. You can have the sciatic nerve is actually a bunch of nerves come together. It's a rather large nerve that runs through your rear end and down the back of your leg. So it can be pinched at points beyond that, having to do more with a muscle type of effect, swelling, irritation, those sorts of things. And so like we talked about, whether it's we need to move those bones and get better motion and stress off of nerves at that point, or whether it's doing that to reset the muscle function so that our hips muscles and the leg muscles all move properly so that we're not impinging anything as it leaves from the low back and goes down through hips and legs and those sorts of things.
When I hear sciatica, I think about older folks, and then I also think about pregnancy, because I know a lot of friends and me who had some sciatica towards the end, and that was probably pressing with having a baby in your belly.
So you have lots of things, obviously. I mean, weight gain, posture changes, those sorts of things. One of the biggest things I see with pregnancy is that when your belly starts to grow and you get that forward motion, it takes that low back curve that's supposed to go forward and pulls it much more extremely forward. So now where those nerves come out the back, you're going to have a lot of pinching and jamming when it does come from that lower back area.
So there's a lot you can do for pregnant women suffering with sciatica, or no?
With lots of things during pregnancy, yes. Like say working to maintain that posture, talking about posture. A lot of times you're not focused on should I be just letting my belly hang all the way forward, or am I still trying to maintain that? Can I even, with the changes in ligaments and all the chemical things that happen during pregnancy? But yes, pregnant women respond very well to chiropractic, and really a lot easier than a lot of folks because of the chemical changes and the loosening in ligaments and joints and muscles.
True.
So it's a very, more so gentle point during pregnancy than it is for a lot of other people, because you're just not having to work through as much tightness and other problems.
And I don't hear a lot about the thoracic part of the back, but I know, because I suffered from the cervical, that now that I have and talk to folks, a lot of people are talking to me and they just throw that out. Oh yeah, I had a problem with C5. Oh, mine was C6 and 7. I was like, yeah, I think I had all three. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, most people have some sort of, thing through a lot of those areas. If they've got a postural change, your body doesn't change posture in just the cervical spine. It's going to change everywhere else to keep you balanced and not falling over. The thoracic spine is stabilized by the ribs. The ribs all have connections to the spine as well. And so you don't tend to see as much big change. Your neck has the greatest range of motion in your spine. So you're going to see more issues there, whiplash type things, injuries, whether it be wrestling or sitting funny all night. It's why you see a lot of that. And then low back, it takes all the strain. Every time you lift, move, bend, twist, turn,
that's true.
All the weight of your body is going through that low back before it can translate to your legs to hold you up. So there's a lot of pressure and strain and stress that does go through the low back as well.
And you reminded me something, I had fallen down the stairs like 6 weeks before I ever hurt. And so when I went to Dr. Tim, he was telling me this could be related to the fall down the stairs. It just took a while for it to happen.
Absolutely. I like to use the analogy of a bucket. If you've got a leak somewhere and you put a bucket under it, you don't see the mess on the floor for a long time. You get these drips that keep filling and filling and filling and filling, and eventually you'll have one drip that overflows the bucket.
Yeah,
and it's not
true.
that one drip that was the problem. Same scenario. You had a fall down the stairs. That might have poured a whole bunch into your bucket, but it didn't quite overflow. And then you sit funny one night and it finally overflows, and you just have all these things that come out and you go, man, I've done that 1,000,000 times. Why did it finally bother me? And very often we see that the repetitive traumas are as big as any fall down the stair kind of trauma.
And see, I wish I knew then what I know now, because then I would have said, okay, I'm fine. I got a little bruise on my thigh and my back hurts a little bit. I better get to the chiropractor.
Absolutely.
Because I could have prevented myself an awful lot of pain and hurt and missed time living my life the way I'm used to living it. If I could have just kept going to you.
Exactly. And to follow the analogy with the bucket, if you fall down the stairs, even though your bucket didn't overflow to where you have symptoms, you go in and get checked out. Now these adjustments are emptying the bucket for you. If not completely fixing the leak, at least giving your bucket more room where it can manage and deal with these little things of day-to-day life that your body will fix and catch up. But if you're filling that bucket faster than you're cleaning the bucket out, it will eventually overflow. And that's kind of where that picture of going to the chiropractor to maintain or keep before you feel the major problems comes in. You're trying to maintain that bucket, help your body keep ahead of this overflow and mess.
Yeah, I would encourage, a lot of us have falls now and again, or even just a little minor fender bender or whatever it is that, you moved your body kind of funny and you might have a couple of bruises. I would say go to the chiropractor now, knowing what I know after living what I lived. Preventative is far better than being in the situation.
Much easier to prevent things than try to fix things. And I would go back to, we were talking a little bit in the first segment about the electronics, computers, and handhelds. Yes, it's easy to go, if I had that fall down the stairs, even though I don't feel it, maybe I should get it checked out. But what about that cell phone you're on,
that's true.
2,000 text messages a month? That's a lot of looking down and messing with your thumbs on that little screen, or your laptop that you work all day at. Those are the things that I really encourage people. Think about that stuff. That's the little traumas that are filling your bucket and you don't think about it, that we want to go in and start to work some of that stuff off and make sure that's not accumulating.
There's so many things I want to ask you. Again, I just want to remind you folks, I'm talking to Dr. Tim Ryan. He's with Ryan Family Chiropractic, and I always have to give a shout out to Tammy too, because I could not have functioned in those early weeks. I think I was going to her every other day, every 3 days.
Just about, yeah.
And then I went to once a week, and then I went to every other week. And so find it, wherever you live, if you're not around Kennesaw and Ackworth, but find a good chiropractor who's going to teach you and talk to you and let you know what they're doing and how it all connects, and one that has a very good massage therapist that they work with, because it is so important that they know the body, not just in a typical massage type manner, really like a medicinal and a healing manner is different. Who knew?
Absolutely. And Tammy would tell you that the key to that is what they call neuromuscular therapy. It's an additional training above and beyond just standard massage therapy. And there's a lot more about the function of the body. And she talks about it all the time. Like, that's the knowing, how does this work? How is it supposed to work? How do we get it back there?
And the reason I'm harping on this so much is because when it first happened, I didn't know Dr. Tim. And, I went to another good chiropractor, nothing wrong with them. But I was sitting in the waiting room with a gentleman who had just walked in, who looked just like me. I had the shoulders way up and I was stiff as a board, and so was he. And he said, "You got neck issues?" I said, "Yes." And he threw out the C language too. And he was going in for surgery because his was due to a car accident and insurance was covering his, whereas mine was coming out of pocket, and I was determined I was going to have the body self-heal itself. And because insurance was involved, they kind of rushed to surgery with this gentleman. And I was determined. I've had surgeries before. I don't heal well. I don't want to open my body. I don't want to create that kind of chaos if I can at all prevent it. And I want to talk about that, Dr. Tim, because I don't know if we've caught up as much with traditional medicine as we need to, and that we really need to give it a try to heal itself first.
Yeah, that's the biggest disconnect I sometimes think is that, doctors feel like chiropractors are just trying to tell everybody they don't need surgery, and chiropractors, think that doctors are telling everybody they need surgery. And really, there's got to be a fine line of working together. Certainly my perspective is the least invasive thing we can do to your body first, because you can always get more invasive. But once you go invasive, you can't go backwards. And so that's kind of where our thought process is. And so, the goal is to get you as much non-invasive treatment to see if we can get you moving forward without delaying any necessity for a more invasive type procedure.
And I work in healthcare. I have friends that are doctors, and they would see me and they would say, "Jean, I know you're trying to give this chiropractic thing a go, but I really think that you need to see a good neurosurgeon. And I really think you need surgery." And it was bombarding me I think people felt bad for me, because I felt bad for me. I was really pitiful and trying to work.
I felt bad for you too.
You did? Well, good. But now there's a woman I work with who also has neck issues, who I'm trying to send to Dr. Tim, who's had an injection and thinks that she might need surgery. And I keep telling her, where I was, people didn't believe I could be okay again without traditional medicine and surgery. They saw me, they saw how awful it was. And I'm walking 2 miles a day again, and I'm doing great. My head gets heavy, and my neck gets tired and I like to put it down, and I bought that special pillow that I sleep with now that in the beginning I couldn't go near, and now I can't live without it. But your body is amazing. Your body can do an awful lot to get itself back.
The adaptive ability of the human body is just amazing. I mean, you can't even put words to how much it is capable of changing, and how many things over the years we've seen, even medical science and things, go like, oh no, that can't possibly happen. And now they're going, oh, you know what? This happens a lot more than we thought. It's pretty amazing.
And I'm not anti-doctor. I work in healthcare. I love
absolutely.
medicine. I love our physicians. They have obstacles that people don't even realize, and they're just trying to do their best to make people feel well again. I'm a big fan.
Yeah.
But in terms of chiropractic care, there is so much that your body can do. And then the other thing that I learned through this process is, if I had a couple of glasses of wine the morning before I went in, maybe one glass, sometimes I'll have two, the night before I went in for a adjustment and a massage with Tammy, they could tell. They would tell me, Jean, you're dehydrated. I was like, yeah, I didn't drink a lot of water. But it's amazing. And the reason I say that is it's amazing. Going hand in hand with the chiropractic care and the good massage therapy care is the care you're giving to your body. I could feel it. The more water I put in my body, the more I hydrated my body, I could almost feel it helping to lift those two spinal vertebra apart. And it provided my own, without being able to get to you, Dr. Tim, relief too. I could feel it. If I was dehydrated, I felt more pain. I could almost visualize pumping a balloon full of water to separate that vertebrae. Am I getting a little too dramatic here, or does that really happen?
It might be a little dramatic, but the picture is
Totally
great.
calling me out.
The picture
That's all
is
I
great,
visualized.
though. I mean, because when you look at, the disc is what's between the vertebra, is that spacer. One of the things you hear that's described medically is that they are dehydrated. They have a lack of fluid in them to give them that proper size and shape that they're supposed to have to keep pressure off the nerves. So, yeah, I don't know that a single glass of water through your mouth is pumping or, deflating that disc.
Really
but the
well
picture
hydrated
is
for days and days. I could feel it. I'm telling you. I don't know. Maybe more studies need to happen because Jeannie's right. But
Absolutely. We'll go with Jeannie.
there's that stubborn Irish woman coming out. But anyway, I think that, eating well, everything is connected. Every show I do, I get more and more wise to how every single thing is connected to eating well, drinking a lot of water, and exercising, and just taking care of this vessel that you've been given, because so many things are tied together. If your spine isn't in order, your nerves aren't in order, your muscles aren't in order, that's all going to affect something. And if that's going up to your brain saying, I hurt, that's connected to the emotions that are in your body. And if you're breaking down on your emotions as well as your physical being, then sickness is coming. So you really have to, and I know that's dramatic, but I'm trying to make a point, folks, that you really have to pay more attention to your spine. And there's a whole lot of ways that your body can take care of itself so that you can prevent future more invasive procedures.
Absolutely. When you're using the body right and you're giving it the right building blocks and you're using it the proper way, it's going to work at its best. It's like any other fine-tuned machine, a race car, or anything like that. If you put in minor bits and pieces, then you're not going to get the highest performance possible out of it.
Okay, so let's talk about some ways that we can help our posture, because we've talked a lot about how important it is, and I've done and bought and purchased a few things and talked a little bit about them, but what do you think the key things are to do to change your habits to keep your spine healthy?
Yeah, the biggest trick, and especially from a postural perspective, is being aware of what you're doing. All too often we just do it because everybody does it, and we put no thought into how is our computer set up, what are we doing with our electronic devices, and so thinking about a little bit of that and just kind of going, okay, well, most of us know you're supposed to sit up straight. Your head should be up over your shoulders. Your arms should be held back and not rolled forward. And so you get to that position, you go, okay, now how do I do X job? How do I work on my computer? And you look at your laptop, and there is no way you're going to keep your arms and your head in those right positions and work on that laptop. So you go, okay, you got to find a way to work with it. It might be the wireless keyboard you were talking about, or it might be I only travel with my laptop and I've got a different computer I work with at home. So those kinds of things, watching furniture, how do you sit and watch TV? Do you have that big, super deep, comfy couch that you're laid all back into, or do you have a chair that has support for your spine and back and neck that you can sit in a good position, while you're doing those activities?
And it is funny because things you don't notice when you don't hurt, all of a sudden come very into focus when you are hurting.
Absolutely.
And I have one of those big comfy couches that recline for the TV room, and I noticed that pillow that's there by your head, it's just pushing my head forward. It's making me more uncomfortable. I wish I knew then what I know now when I was purchasing furniture. I actually went out and bought a new living room set after all of this because I needed to have something to sit in that was
something
comfortable.
with support.
So it is important. Let's talk about the car.
Yeah.
I have a real problem with my car because the headrest goes forward. Boy, this whole show is about me. I'm so sorry, folks. The headrest goes forward far more than it should. Actually, to one point where Dr. Tim came out of his office to come, he was tired. He's like, Jeannie, you keep complaining about your car. Let me see your car. And then he agreed. He said that headrest is crazy. I'm not going to call out the type of car, but so I literally was driving to work yesterday morning, probably because this show was coming, and I said, oh my God, I'm going to make us rich. I am going to create a backrest that I can actually use in the car to keep my posture correct. Now that I'm living this, I know what I need. What I did in the beginning is I took one of those noodles that you swim with, and I went to Walgreens and I bought socks and put it over the noodle because Dr. Tim said, put it behind your back, standing it straight up and down, right? And that kind of forces your shoulders, if you can imagine, if you take your hand and kind of put it in the middle of your back and push on it, it pushes your shoulders back. And so that was the whole premise of having the noodle straight up and down in the car. But I haven't found the right thing. You have a lot of those desk pillows that go on the desk chairs, but that's more lumbar.
Yeah, there's a lot for lumbar. There's, just very few companies that do the whole spine type support. And then, of course, you run into the headrest in your car comes so far forward, you're trying to fight to build out to the headrest so your head isn't forward. So there's so many factors, into trying to find that balance for your body and position to keep your spine straight given what you're sitting into.
So, a good entrepreneur out there still is a need. We have all these memory foam products and all of these lumbar support products. We really don't have anything to really help from the neck down when you're sitting in a car.
Yeah, a whole system that can accommodate, different headrests and different amount of lumbar support. Every car seat is so different, trying to find one solution that fits into all of them. If someone came up with that, they would be doing pretty well for themselves.
Okay, so we never have enough time. Top 3 things you want folks to know.
Oh, top 3! You're gonna limit me down. You mean as far as health is concerned, I think the number one thing to realize is that health isn't a quick fix. There is no magic bullet. If you're not willing to put the time in, you're not going to get the best results you possibly want out of your body. And so that means dealing with all aspects of health, whether it's sleep, energy, exercise, diet, nervous system, muscles. I mean, all the different parts have got to work together. So you got to be willing to put the time in.
I think that's good because I want to give you some kudos too, because I was seeing the chiropractor every other day and the massage I needed every couple of days. And the way Dr. Tim has his practice structured is a monthly payment. So I could actually budget. That wasn't offered at some of the other places that I don't know if that's very out of the norm or not, but it's a wonderful thing. So you charge, it depends on how many visits you typically need a week. So if it's 3 visits, it's a little more. If it's 2 visits, it's a little less. If it's 1 visit a week, it's a little bit less. And it's very reasonable.
Yeah. The goal is to make it affordable. If you can't come in, what's the point of being able to give you all this great care if it just is so out of reach? And so many insurance policies don't cover, different things and things like that. People are coming out of pocket. We have to find a way to make it possible for an individual, nevertheless, a whole family that wants to do this as a wellness perspective. And so, we've come up with ways to make it a monthly payment depending how often you want to come.
Yeah.
Or right down to we got some people that just rather pay individual days because they don't know what their schedule is, and we're totally willing to accommodate.
That. It really worked. And the whole family package too, that was great too. And then just the last thing, because I know I'm running over, you hurt yourself and then you need an x-ray, and a lot of people say get an MRI, and then they run some other diagnostics, and everything that you have to do costs money. And I loved with you that you really said, well, I'm concerned, so you really do need to get an x-ray because I got to know what I'm working with here. But let's hold off on the MRI for now. But if this doesn't work, then I'm going to tell you. I really like the way that you worked truthfully and in a real honest way, and I didn't feel like everything was just kind of being put out up front there. So I'm telling you folks, if you're struggling, if you're hurting, if you're suffering from anything from your neck to your thoracic to your lumbar area in your spine, do see a great chiropractor. And if you're in the Kennesaw, Ackworth area, I can't help but be subjective and go see Ryan Family Chiropractic, and Tammy too as well with the massage. Thank you for listening. Again, that's Ryan Family Chiropractic, and you can check him out on his website at www.ryanfamilychiropractic.com. I'm Jean Pete. Have a great week. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day and week ahead, and listen here same time next week and every week. Homestead Hope Foundation is your resource for a healthy life. God bless.